Hi there. Today, welcome to week 13 in this class. You're on the home stretch. You're definitely almost there. Excuse my appearance and my cough drop. I am fighting off a cold. So who knows how long this video will be able to last before the next sneezing fit ensues. But I wanted to just give you a little introduction to this week's topic. We're talking about quantitative data analysis. Now, this is exciting for me because I am a quantitative researcher. It might, though, not be met with the same level of excitement by all of you. I can tell you that if you have already taken statistics, this stuff will be a review for you. You have heard all of this before if you have taken statistics. If you haven't taken statistics, fear not. This is a great introduction for you to statistics. So read this chapter carefully. Read it over and over again. It tells you enough information about what you need to know in terms of methodology and quantitative analysis to be able to begin to think about your own proposal without getting too detailed and too in-depth to where you're going to freak out and run screaming from the room if quantitative methodology isn't quite up your alley. The important things I want to point out to you about quantitative analysis is different statistical procedures, different types of analyses do different things. Correlational analyses identify relationship or an association between two variables, but they do not indicate causality. When you're doing t-tests or ANOVAs, chi-squares, MANOVAs, what you're really interested in is in group differences. Excuse me. Sorry about that. A student needing advising. Okay, where was I? Talking about quantitative data. So your MANOVAs, your t-tests, your ANOVAs are looking at group differences. I don't want people to talk about things in causal terms unless you are absolutely positive that the way you are looking at a question and the type of analysis you are doing can actually provide evidence for causality. It's very rare. And so I want you to keep that in mind when you're writing. It's very important that you use the right language to describe not only your questions, but your hypotheses. For example, if I'm studying child care quality and I want to look at teacher training, teacher education, levels of formal education, I might find a relationship between higher levels of education and higher levels of quality. But that is a correlation, that is a relationship, it's an association. I can't say that that higher level of formal education caused higher quality because I have not looked at all the variables and I didn't do a test that would determine that. I just looked to see if there was an association, meaning did these two things happen at the same time. There's also a lot of correlational evidence that people with larger feet sizes have higher IQs. Does that mean that having a bigger foot causes a higher IQ? Absolutely not. It's just a relationship. And if you have a big enough sample, you can find a relationship between almost any two variables, which is why effect size becomes important when we're talking about different quantitative procedures, but I'm not going to get into that with you right now. So, as I said, read this chapter very carefully. It's going to talk to you about developing code categories, which is what we do when we have qualitative data that we want to analyze quantitatively, in case you're trying to figure out what that's all about. It also talks to you about how to create a code book, which is important when you're doing analysis in a computer. You need to know what a 1 equals, and a 2 equals, and a 3 equals in that database. And so the chapter goes on to talk about frequency distribution, central tendencies, modes, medians, standard deviation, continuous versus discrete variables, which are all things that are very familiar to you if you've already taken statistics. If you haven't, it'll be new and you might have to read this chapter more than one time. But again, it's very well written, very laid out. If you have questions about any of these types of analyses, please feel free to put a question on the Q&A and I will answer them. I can do video or something on the discussion board. I'm going to have to stop now because I'm out of time. YouTube will only let me use 10 minutes posting. But I think that's all I had to say for this week. So be sure to read this chapter very carefully, especially if your proposal will be quantitative in nature. Okay, thanks. Have a great week.